All right, everyone, I am delighted.
I'm very sorry that I'm gonna be here and then you're looking there, so you're not gonna look at me, but it's okay. We lost 10 minutes.
I know. Technical difficulties. Everyone, meet Gil Penalosa, Guillermo Penalosa.
Well, I want to thank Ellen for inviting me. I always love to go to university because there is such a nice energy to get things done. And especially now, there is such an opportunity. You know, you have done nothing. And all of a sudden you were born in one of the most exciting times ever on urbanism, on creating cities. I mean, I'm gonna go through a lot of things, but just to think about it, half of the homes that will exist within your lifetime do not exist. So you are gonna have to do it. How exciting. Today we got about 3.5 billion people living in cities. Within your lifetime, we're gonna go to 7 billion living in cities. Never in history we have created homes for 3.5 billion people 40 years. So that's the good news. The bad news is, or the also good news is that you're gonna have to do it radically different because what we've been doing in the last 40. Okay, so let me take you through some ideas and then we have a dialogue and then we chat. And then hopefully it works. It does not.
Is it not? Oh, no.
No. Let me see where we have.
Yes.
Oh,
We just click on these amounts. That just would work.
so close. Ah, okay.
It worked.
How did you do it?
That, or was it
So
my
that
mouse or?
mouse worked.
I think your own mouse work. Not this clicker.
Yeah, I don't
But
think.
now it's the clicker.
Now with the clicker, okay.
Okay, it just needed to connect.
Yeah.
They needed to talk.
Activate, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about urban health. Urban health is so important because at the end of the day, urban health is the effects of urban environments on health of people, on humans. And I think we should put everything on the 3 pillars: social, nature, and the built environment. But most of it is how these 3 interact. For example, you go to a city and then we have, like in Toronto, we have 28% tree canopy. So that is nature. But then some people might say, oh yeah, but 28% is citywide. Where the wealthy people live is over 50%. Where the low income people live is less than 5%. So then it's about social and it's about the built environment. So urban health is about all of those interrelationships. And a key element is how do we want to live? You gotta think, how do we want to live? That is the most important question in any city. How do we want to live? Because, for example, if we want children to go to school, we need to do small schools so that the catchment area is small. But most cities are doing gigantic schools and it's no longer walk to school. That's why that is so important. And everything I'm going to talk about is equally valid in the city of 20,000 people or 1 million or 10 million. Doesn't matter. If you're under 16, you don't drive in the city of 10,000 or in the city of 10 million. We're living longer in the city of 10,000 and in the city of 10 million. Maybe the solutions are different. Maybe you need public transit in the city of 10,000 and a few buses. The city of 10 million, there might be a few LRTs or something. So the issues are similar, but the solutions might be different. And in any city of 10,000 or 20,000, we want to walk and bike and take public transit, and everybody should have nature close to home. And when we were thinking about how to deal with issues of equity and population growth and climate change, I mean, we see the symptoms everywhere. I live in Canada, and in Canada we were this summer, it was burning fires coast to coast to coast. It was really incredible, but we also see the consequences at the citywide level, at the personal level, even if some people still don't want to believe it. I find it incredible that in the US, 46% of the Republicans don't believe in climate change. I mean, we're doing the next COP meeting in Dubai. So there's a lot of things. I mean, we really need to decide, how do we want to live? Because all of this is up to us, up to us. And when we were thinking about all of this, COVID arrived. And when COVID arrived, people said, oh, everything changed. I don't think things really change. I think our perception changed. It's as if we had gotten some magnifying glasses to look at our cities. And all of a sudden, things that seem invisible, such as homelessness, were right in front of us. And it was also the lack of equity. Poverty was almost invisible, became visible. 90% of the hotels were empty, and people were just painting rectangles on the parking lots so that homeless would sleep on the parking lot, with 90% of the hotel beds empty. But on the positive side, we have been told that the quality of air was bad. But we didn't know how bad, because you are born and you live with the same air, so you don't know how good or how bad it is. Until they say, hey, you gotta stay home for a few days. And city after city, with just a few days, was totally transformed. So we gotta decide. You know, it was like if God has sent us a magic wand to say, oh, horrible air, we're gonna fix it. It was very interesting, because it was very clear how to have clean air, how to have clean air. It's up to us. One message that I want you to keep from tonight is that this is not a technical issue. This is not a financial issue. It's about policy. It's about politics, not political parties, but about policies. It's about deciding how do we want to live. Because the people in Milan might want to live like this, or they might want to live like that. It's up to them. And of course, it has a lot of consequences. Now we've seen what is possible. So if we live like this, we know what is good. I was working in China when they had the open meeting, and the President Obama and all the people went. And it was incredible. Since China wanted to have blue skies, they closed all of the schools and all of the factories 10 days before the presidents arrived. And yeah, so when I was there, some of the people in China were telling, oh, today we have Obama blue. What's Obama blue? He said, oh, because Obama was coming, now we got blue skies. When he leaves, then the factories go up again, and then it's I mean, are we gonna go back to 2019, or are we gonna come back to a better future? What worries me so much is that most cities are going back to 2019. Most cities are doing more of the same. That's why I think when Ellen said, why do you want to talk to my students? I said, because hopefully I want them to be passionate advocates on whatever you want. I don't care the topic. But this is not a time for citizens to be spectators. The citizens need to participate. I mean, over 6 million people die every year because of bad quality of air. Over 40 million have lung infection for life because of bad quality of air. But at the same time, from a horrible situation, opportunities came. You know, we told people, hey, go to the parks, but be physically distant. Well, many cities didn't have enough parks. So we remember the streets are public space. And so people came out, and it was great. This is Auckland, New Zealand. This is Auckland, California. I was working there last week. It's really interesting. Look what they did. Keep in mind, it's not a technical or financial. The mayor said, hey, tomorrow, all of the streets in the neighborhood, all are gonna be slow. So what is a slow street? That only the people that live on the street can go in their cars in that street, and only at 10 miles an hour. It makes a lot of sense. Why is it that when people are driving on a bit on like West Beach, and then there's a traffic jam, then they cut through the neighborhood full speed? No. If you're in a traffic jam, you wait. You cannot cut through the neighborhood. She did it. All the neighborhood streets of Auckland. And what happened? Well, they became safe. No noise. Cleaner air. Was magnificent. Over 90% of the citizens that wanted to stay. Now, a few, of course, always don't want to, so they're evaluating how to move forward, but this is something that any city anywhere can do. It's not about the money. Atlanta could do it, why not? Atlanta could say, okay, this neighborhood, that neighborhood, or citywide. We don't need to have a pandemic to say, we already have a pandemic, we already have people dying all the time. So we need to decide. You know, we want bike lanes. And we need to fight 5, 10, 15 years. Because oh, it's too difficult. We need to add the community, we need technical, we need the money, we don't have budget. Well, used to take 10 or 15 years, now we were doing them in 10 or 15 days. It's London, it's Berlin. No, every country, every city, all over the place, people were doing it in days. It wasn't decades. So we needed dedicated lanes for public transit. And again, in a few days, it was painted and they were done. We couldn't have grocery stores inside the market, so we did them on the streets, and it worked. It's very interesting because public golf even in San Francisco, again, zero cost. The mayor says it's public golf course where 200 people access, 200. As of tomorrow, it's gonna be a public park, and we're gonna have thousands. This is about it. Nevertheless, most cities don't do it. In Toronto, we have like 4 public golf courses. And like 3 years ago or something, they asked, a counselor asked if staff would evaluate, not change, evaluate. The counselor did not allow even to evaluate. Oh, people gonna play four golf players. By the way, in the metropolitan area, there are 110 golf courses. And half of them are public, so it's not that they don't have a place to. But from the point of view of equity, if a city doesn't have enough green spaces, should they have a golf course for 200 people or a public park? Or maybe half of it housing and the other half a park. I mean, we really need to rethink this. Also, it's a class issue. If it was not a golf course, but it were cricket pitches, we had 10 cricket pitches, and they said, oh, should we evaluate whether we should have cricket pitches or a park? In 10 seconds, they would have approved. Okay, study that. But then since this golf, you know, people are going to feel snobby. It's really horrible what happened. That's why we need you. That's why I say you need to be passionate advocates of whatever you want. But in any case, the impossible seemed possible, and we were so happy because things were happening, and we said, wow, post-COVID, things are gonna be better. What a wonderful opportunity. We're gonna jump over COVID, we're gonna create healthier cities, and people are gonna be happy. For example, if you look at Atlanta already, city from the air, the biggest public space are streets. The biggest public space. How about if we start turning a lot of that gray into green? Melbourne already has turned over 100 acres of streets in the downtown into green. It's doable. Imagine that when they were gonna repave, maybe they repave the neighborhood streets every 30 years. Imagine if when they were gonna do the window on your doors. Hey, we're gonna do it next month. Next, we're gonna do it 30 years from now. So do you want all of it to be paved? Or do you want half pavement and half green space? Maybe people, a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, we do have green space. Other people might say, no, I love cars parked in front of my house. I like to be a warehouse of cars. So I want cars on both sides. Then you do it. But many people would not. So this is obvious. The Champs-Élysées, the most iconic avenue in the world, is turning now 14 lanes of cars, always full of cars. It's not because it's not used. And the mayor, who has vision, is turning half of it into a magnificent promenade with trees and green spaces. I mean, it's easy. This is, except that there are some people that want more cars and more isolation. So that's why we need to fight about these issues, because it obviously makes sense to do it. And you gotta decide how do you want Atlanta to become? That is the key element. I mean, you can do it. You gotta have an attitude. If you are here studying about cities, whether it's architecture or design or planning or anything, you gotta have an attitude that if not you, then who? If not now, when? When? I mean, there is a sense of urgency. So we really need an Atlanta that is equitable and sustainable, where everybody can live healthy and happy. That's the goal. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I'm originally from Colombia. I was commissioner there. And when I was commissioner, even before that, in 1976, I started thinking about cities, actually 2 or 3 years before, because the UN was organizing the world's largest conference. Up until then, like 3 years before, there had been one on the environment. Then this was the biggest. And I was lucky because my father was in charge of it. He was #2 at the UN, under Secretary General, and he went to 98% of the countries, inviting presidents, ministers to go to Vancouver, where it was gonna take place. And he would tell my brother and I a lot of anecdotes of how it was. Like he went to Iran, and then how much money, and he said, you know, it was in a building, they had dinner, and it was 3 floors, and he said every floor was exactly the same. They had the fanciest marble, and all of it covered with carpets, with Persian carpets. Then he said there was so much food that everybody ate, and it looked as if no one had eaten. And actually they had, I don't remember what kind of animal, sheep or something. And then to honor someone, the guest of honor, they give him the eye. They said, oh, no, Mr. Penalosa, give the eye. Yeah. And they said, how do you like it? Oh, delicious. So they said, and then he flew to Mumbai in India. And he went through a lot of the slums. He was so impacted that he couldn't eat for 4 days. But it was very interesting, him telling us anecdotes from different places and whatever. And the Prime Minister of Canada was also Trudeau, another Trudeau. And but I really got impacted. I was finishing high school and first year of university. My brother too. Maybe we were impacted by UN Habitat or all these anecdotes, because then my brother became mayor twice, and he just published a book, Spanish and Portuguese, and it's been at the University of Pennsylvania. It's gonna come out in January under the title Quality and the City. And I have worked in over 350 cities. So, and our mother, she was a landscape gardener, so she also taught us the love of nature without even knowing. We were 2 years old, and then they would take us, but she was planting trees or doing gardening, and we would go. So I've been dealing with people and cities for a long time, and urban health. Bogota is the capital of Colombia, on the northern tip of South America. And let me tell you a couple of things on parks and Florida. On parks, I led the construction over 200 parks. I'm telling you a few things about Bogota for 2 things. One is because I did many of those, but 2 also because Bogota is very poor compared to Atlanta. Bogota has a fraction of the income that a city like Atlanta has. Nevertheless, I did over 200 parks. When my brother afterwards was mayor, in 2 terms, he did over 1,000 parks. It was one of them. The Pope came, gave a mass for 1 million people, and then the Pope left. Nothing happened. Nothing happened in 27 years, not even sidewalks. Why nothing happened? Because change is hard. Change is hard in Atlanta, or in Bogota, or in Copenhagen, or in everywhere in the world, change is hard. That's why all of you guys also have the attitude to look for solutions to the problems, not for problems to the solution. Don't take no for an answer. They don't want to do it. No, you gotta find a way how to do it. Because when you try to change, you're gonna see that these decaying people show up. Everywhere, you're gonna see decaying people throughout your lives. The citizens against virtually everything. But then you gotta find that little crack through the window and run through it. Don't accept this. So it was like this for 27 years, and then in 4 years, we turned it out into this. A fantastic park for active, for passive, for contemplative recreation. Because it's about all kinds of things, and it was quite nice. Still probably the nicest park in the city for recreation, for cultural activities, for uses. Sometimes, even anecdotes, when we're gonna do this, some guy that was drunk in the government went to the World Cycling Federation, and they said, oh, who wants to host the next track cycling? Then, oh, we won. They gave it to Colombia. And then we had to build a velodrome because this guy got the help. So I said, okay, I'll build a velodrome. If and only if we do something in the middle. And then the cyclists hated me for that before, not afterwards. And then there's all this radio and TV 24 hours with sports, and saying, oh, that I'm against the cyclists and whatever. I said, track is very complicated to bike. Very, very few people do. Even when we built it, I created all kinds of schools and coaches and purchased bikes for free, whatever. And I'm so glad that I didn't skating because every time that I go, I will see a lone ranger cycling and hundreds of people skating. And they are totally compatible, the two of them. So something that we need to do also is every infrastructure that we do, we gotta have it multi-use. And also below the ramps, then we have for health and training and all kinds of facilities. And behind we have got this BMX and all kinds of activities. After I left, my brother became mayor of this library, one of the corners of this park. This park is totally similar to Central Park. It's beautiful. One of the best architects designed it. He did 4 of these magnificent libraries, the other 3 in the slums, extreme poverty. And it was quite nice. So these are some of the things that also most of them they were in very poor areas, also small parks. And people always say, oh, why are you doing parks in the poor or low income area? They need so many other things. Of course, they need education and health, but they also need recreation. You know, when the low income, when the poor people feel miserable, it's in the leisure time. When they're working, the CEO of a corporation or the minimum wage worker cleaning floors have similar experience. Maybe even the CEO has worked outside. But in the leisure time, the CEO has restaurants and theater and country clubs and cottages and travel. The minimum wage worker has none. So if we improve how the use of the leisure time, we're really improving quality of life. So the low income people need better parks, better sidewalks, better bike lanes, better everything that is public. Also because they live in a tiny house. So they don't really live there, they sleep there, they live really outside. So the outside has to be much better. So we gotta really invest in that. And it's something that is really critical. In many of these neighborhoods, you see there none of the streets were even paved. Also the ciclovia. What is ciclovia? I found a program with a few miles and a few thousand people, and we turned it into the world's largest pop-up park. Amazing. It is. But again, it's not about the money. You open streets to people, we close it to cars, and the magic happens. The magic happens. Yes. There was only a little bit on the upper, this is by economic levels. There was only a little bit in the upper income. And I want to connect the forest areas of the city with the world 75 miles every Sunday and holiday. This is amazing. When I get some of the major parks, people come and walk and run and skate and shop and socialize. But more than letting people enjoy the presence of each other. They could go out in the neighborhood and walk around their block. No, they want to go to these 75 miles because they want to be with other people. That's really great. I love it. This is these two that big parks in Mount Bolivar and the Ciclovia are kind of my 4th and 5th kid. I love them like a child. It's really amazing. We get young and old and rich and poor and fat and skinny. 1 out of 5 people come out every single Sunday. He changed his mind. He tells people, hey, the streets are public space. And they can have different uses according to the time of the day or the day of the week of the year. We gotta be flexible. It's about social integration. And cities are doing it now all over the place. In India, when I started going, there were none, and now they got like 40 cities that are doing it. Great. And maybe you see it in Atlanta, maybe the people in council are a little bit snobby and say, oh, but it's Bogota and India. Paris doing it. Even in the winter time, Paris does it 52 weeks of the year. It's quite nice. We meet each other as equal. That CEO and his or her family and the minimum wage worker and his or her family meet as equals. This is the only place they meet as equals. They don't live in the same buildings. The children don't go. And actually, I got this idea from Frederick Olmsted. Olmsted did most of the best large parks in North America. I was reading his biography at the time, and he was saying that in New York, 170 years ago, everybody hated everybody. The locals and the immigrants, the blacks and the white, the rich and the poor. And he said, they don't know each other. We need places where they can meet as equals. Well, I said, maybe in any city, anywhere, you don't have to have the park. But if you got the street, people are gonna meet as equals. So that's now they're understood. It's very low cost. If your city has streets and people, you can do it. There is low risk. What happens? You do it this year. If it doesn't work, okay, you don't do it next. But if it works, then you do it every week the following year. And the benefits, oh my God, are endless. You do this, and this is not a recreation program. This is a mental, a physical health program. It's economic development, it's the environment, it's happiness. I mean, try it in 2024. I mean, Atlanta has, but only like 2 days per year. Atlanta should do it every Sunday of the year. But that then is when you have the health benefit. You don't have health benefit if it's once a year. This is not an event. This is not an event, it's a program. And I recommend, usually, don't do events in the cities. The cities waste way too much money doing events. The 4th of July, the New Year's. That doesn't have much benefit. Instead, if you have a program that are daily, that are weekly, that are every other day, it's much better. For example, for health, you don't get health benefits when it's once a year. You get health benefits when it's weekly. Also, because we have done a lot of studies here with the CDC, and they have hired a lot of PhDs to go down, and they see that the people that go out, they don't wait for the following Sunday to be physically active. They are more likely to either walk or run or do some activity during the week, and be ready for Sunday. Let me show you. I don't know if the sound is working.
Are community-based programs that temporarily open selected streets to people by closing them to cars.
Magic.
By doing this, the streets become a place where people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds can come out and improve their health.
It's a really beautiful way to see the city. There's just tons of people, all different kinds, all different ages. There's even a segment called the Recrovia, and this is absolutely great because they have about 28 stages with aerobics instructors and Roomba instructors, and they're giving free classes to any citizen that wants to participate. This is really something beautiful to see.
La oportunidad que tiene la familia para disfrutar la ciudad. Eso es lo mejor.
My first impressions of seeing open streets in Guadalajara is this is far beyond my expectation. I knew it would be lively and I knew there would be a lot of people, but I still just could not imagine that it would be what it was, all the people in the streets doing all sorts of activities.
I think it's important to learn from programs like this because you see how it changes the way people see their city, that it changes the way they interact with public space, with parks, with the streets, with the roads, and then with each other. He saw complete strangers kind of teaching each other how to hula hoop, that sense of community.
People can begin to change their habits, and a city can change its culture of health.
Estos 400,000 usuarios antes de que existiera la vía recreativa. Estaríamos en casa viendo la televisión o haciendo cosas estáticas.
I actually felt tears of joy riding because it's such an experience to be here riding. It's a sense of freedom, seeing people in all ages, on all different bikes, with their dogs, with their kids, with their scooters. For me, it's an example of sustainable happiness.
Cities across North America have been moving forward, pursuing their own open street programs, and are starting to see the power they have to get people up and active.
It can be very, very successful anywhere in the world, in any type of climate, in any type of society, because one of the things that is universal is how people enjoy the presence of others. There you go.
All of these people are going to enjoy car-free streets from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., 7 miles all the way up to the most iconic streets in New York, Park Avenue. It's not just about being in motion. It's also about want to go out and have a cup of coffee and enjoy those streets and people watch. I mean, there are wonderful ways to get out and enjoy the streets of New York.
A whole different perspective. I mean, you zip by it in a cab usually. You get to see things that you would never otherwise see, you know, the statue of Cornelius Vanderbilt, who knew?
The best part is watching people look up and enjoy buildings from the safety of the street instead of avoiding looking up because they're trying to avoid collision with motorists.
It's a wonderful place to be, but it's terrible during the day with the cars going along, and the fumes, the noise, the horns and everything. But today, it's incredible.
It was fantastic. I thought that it was great. I did see a lot of children really having fun. It's ridiculously fun. Sure, that's a long time ago.
The general issue that we can see is that people want to take over the streets, and people want to have fun, and people want to meet out as equals, and this develops a sense of belonging. And
This is a unique experience, first time in New York City, I'm experiencing this.
For example, we take measurements with the CDC on Sunday at noon in different corners, and then in the same place on a weekday. And we measure the quality of the air, measure the level of noise. All of a sudden, it's full of carbon on a weekday, you need to speak very loud, when no one hears. Yes. It's really transformative, in addition of the benefits obvious of physical health and so on. And it's great. People of one age and abilities and socialize and lower. It's great. Also, do 175 miles. 3 years. I was them, I was one of my brothers, and I helped in this project of biking. 3 years. It was tough. There was not 1 inch of protected bike lane from Alaska to the Patagonia. Now it's easy because you can say, oh, Paris is doing it, New York is doing it. No one. But you gotta do a net. Look, some of the areas were so poor that it's almost impossible for you to imagine the level of lumps. And look at the quality of the bike lanes and the sidewalks. Why do you need quality? Because it's gonna be safe. And also because we need to dignify the people that walk, the people that use bikes. As you see the street for the cars, it's still mud, doesn't have people. And there was huge pressure because the owners of cars, I mean, the fewer cars in any city, the more sense of entitlement that they have, the more sense that they are the powerful. That's why they have different trees for the microclimates, lights, bicycles and pedestrians separating. This is, we took, we have a video done by some people from New York. You can go to the website. It's Gil Penalosa, that's we have video done from New York that say that they are in the slums where every street is on pavement. They said we're seeing protected bikeways better than anyone built in New York. I'm saying this is because Bogota is very poor. It's to show you that it's not a thing about the money. And of course, it's not perfect. There are things, but the focus was how to connect. You need to have connected. If it's not connected, people are not gonna use it. This was quite nice. Look at this. Low income areas, middle low. Look at the width of the biking. Look at the width of the sidewalks. Look at the sidewalk. These trees were planted in 98 until video one time. Anyone here studies management? Yeah. Hire people to plant trees, include maintenance for the next 3 or 4 years. That way they do a good home, a good soil. The tree dies to their form. Then they cannot replace it. Then some of them die. Don't have to. This is very poor areas. Of course, it's I mean, before the pandemic, Bogota had to have very steady times. It's over 800 bikers per day. That might not sound like a much, but that is more than the whole population of Copenhagen. I don't think there's any city in emerging countries that has that kind of ridership. If this is something, look at this school. Look at that school. This school is as good as any school in Atlanta. Has swimming, has theater, has all that. 69 of these schools built in the 40s years was really incredible, transformative, and how to manage. We found out which were the best schools that have gotten the best SATs in the last 20 years. I think we invited them. We said, hey guys, you got the best school. They said, oh, but we don't have money. Who's talking about money? We're talking about money. You don't know about money, you know about education. We need you to adopt, we need you to manage one school. We'll give you the money, we'll give you the same budget that cost the city a public school, and you run it. Why was this? Because the schools were having some unions that were extremely complicated. And they were used to saying, oh, the poor people, they don't finish high school, they 70% leave before they graduate. No, 0% go to universities because they are poor. Well, now they were having these schools right next, I don't know, half a mile from that one, so we could benchmark. One run by the union, one run by this top 20, top 50 schools in the country. And then the indicators were totally different. All of a sudden, now, every year they publish the top 100 schools in the country, and always of these 67, at least 10 or 15 are in the top 100 in the country. Really amazing. These students are so good that the national government had to come up with a special program to subsidize the university for these people. And they gave them tuition and books and everything. And then initially, the first year it was, they went and then they couldn't buy lunch because lunch at those private universities cost more than the money that they have for the whole week. And then so they had to put up money fast on how to improve. But now all of these people are being graduating and are being leaders and transforming. So it was 67 schools, all three. Like people didn't know which one was managed by a private school and which was managed by. But nevertheless, when people could choose, most people were going because there were less absenteeism of the teachers. So you benchmark. I'm not saying get rid of all the ones that work on the union, but the union have got to raise up their level. This is one library, this part, and those areas, and 5 centers of happiness. This is one of those centers of happiness, are swimming pools and places, yoga and all kinds of things. Look at all of these parks. When we say that there are so few parks that we see in countries like US or Canada that are so wealthy, the US is the wealthiest country in the world, and look at this, they say, we don't have money, and then you go, they're building flyover, they're widening highway. It just depends, are you gonna use your money to widen highways, or are you gonna use it to improve the neighborhoods and to get the cars out of the sidewalks? When my brother was mayor, he was almost impeached for getting the cars out. If retail, they can organize and they got millions of dollars and they started getting people to get signatures. They got like 300,000 signatures to impeach him. Fortunately, they needed like 500,000. But it was tough, Lots of death threats to him and me and the families. That was one of the reasons why I ended up in Canada. I look at these sidewalks. I mean, this is quite nice. Here, this was really powerful. For the first large city in the world, the first one that had a bus rapid transit system with dedicated lane. The only one that had it before was Curitiba in Brazil, but Curitiba is a small city. But nevertheless, Jamie Lerner did a fantastic job in Curitiba. Like this, look at that. To tell people in Bogota, I mean, when 90% of the people have cars like in the US, they are far more, but not as much as when it's the 20% that have cars. Because that 20% are the senator, the minister, the presidents of companies, the owners, all the people that write in the media, the powerful people. So to tell them, hey, this lane is only for buses. It was really radical and transformative. This has been so successful that over 140 cities around the world have gone there to study and to adapt and to put it in their system. Now, most of them are gas, but there's over 1,000 that are electric. You will say, oh, but the train, the LRTs. I mean, the LRTs are cute, but they're very expensive. The problem is that people in Bogota also politically say, so. The issue is this: we need a citywide transit system. If we have money for subway everywhere, okay, maybe that's an option. But if we have an option to put a subway only in 20 kilometers or a BRT in 200 kilometers, then what would you do? Unfortunately, many people are so narrow-minded in Toronto. Toronto, an area of the city that doesn't have public transit, was gonna have a light rail, 21 stations. And a crazy mayor that we had a few years ago, just subway. It was so crazy, it's unthinkable that it was Toronto, doing drugs and taking prostitutes to City Hall, doing crack. He himself will go to the streets and buy crack, then he died. But his brother now is premier of the province of Ontario, so he's like the governor of Ontario. But anyway, he canceled the 21 stop for a one-stop subway. Now it changed for 3-stop subways. So now, before, they were gonna have 100% of the people of that part of the city were gonna have public transit. Now only 15%. The other 85% have nothing. That's too fine. That's why I want you to be passionate advocate on whatever. Imagine the University of Toronto has a campus there with 14,000 students. They said nothing. The president of the university, I had lunch with him and I said, hey, why didn't you say anything? Oh, I wanted the professors to have liberty to say what. I said, I'm not telling you that you should tell the professor what to say, but you as university should have stood up. This is not a $50,000 park. This is a multi-billion-dollar, and it was gonna have a stop in the middle of his campus. I said, you got 14,000 students that wouldn't have public transit. Now they don't have. I said, my God, what is running through our veins? It looks like honey. What's running through our veins? It's still blood. You know? It is what it is. No, it is not. It is what it is. We need to change. It's incredible that level. So we're gonna see. But enough of Bogota. Not anymore. More. I want to tell you is that that's why I showed you it's only because it's for and did some interesting things. The other good thing is that people adapt. Once you do it, for example, once you do magnificent libraries, one of the things that my brother was thinking is it's impossible to give everybody in the low income areas a new house in the short term. Possible. But it is possible to give everybody everything that is possible. Great schools, great libraries, bike lanes, sidewalks. So that was a little bit the idea. And then people adapt. When other cities of Colombia started seeing those libraries in the slums, they started doing it. They had never done a library in the slums, and they did it. For those kids that live in the middle of violence, and they're going to that library with computers. Bill Gates donated over 10,000 computers that are replaced every 3 years, and these students are connected to the world and all. So they are experiences that are transformative. And then the bike lane, the ciclovia that I did, the open street, now over 500 cities around the world have it. So it is really, really good when cities are good. But what I've been fortunate to have worked in over 350 cities all over the place. And also I have a webinar. You have time Tuesdays, every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Or just go to Gil Penalosa, you can look at all the others. For example, the other day they came with the 100 most influential urbanists. And I came out of the maybe they made a mistake. But anyway, we've had 25 of the 100 as guests. It's really, really good, and it's free. You can go and get it. It is not as professionally and nicely done as your professor's podcast. That is wonderful. Oh, I love it. I heard Adrian Benopi and Mitchell Silver and lots of other people. Tomorrow we will do. But it's Majora Carter also. I saw her. Great. Also, go to her podcast. Any of those podcasts are equally valid today, 6 months ago, 6 months from now. They are less. So go to this one the same, class, whatever. But anyway, when I go to places, people always say, what's 886? What's 886? I said, well, 886 is really not about park to street or walking or cycling. It is, those are the means of the end. The end is how can we help create successful community? And I like to see the venue. I came late today, but usually I come early to see the venue. I was in Warsaw and they invited me to speak outdoors. And I went the day before, I see all these people dancing. I said, oh my God, how am I gonna compete the next Today they're dancing, tomorrow they're gonna listen to me. And then I saw the DJ Pika. And then I started speaking with her, you know, chief owns all of the music equipment and was from park to park, from city to city organizing dances. By the way, in the US, the people that create business with the most amount of businesses are the people between 60 and 70 years old. The second segment is 50 to 60. You tend to think, oh, is the 25-year-old, not 25, are barely surviving, have a university loan, and trying to decide, do I get married or not, do I get a job, where am I gonna live? But people, they're 60, then they said, all her life she wanted to do this, finally, she had the time and she's doing it. But next time,
That's my next job.
And then so it is about this healthy communities where people are gonna be happier. And always people say, oh, really, can our children go to school? Can our grandparents get eggs or milk on their bikes? We call it the 8th rule of common sense, but common sense is the least common of the senses. Then number one, think of a child around 8 years old that you love, your brothers, your sisters, nephews, neighbors, anybody around 8. And once you have the 8-year-old, then start thinking about someone that you love around 80, your parents, your grandparents, neighbors, teachers, professors, anybody. And then once you have the child and the older adult, the 8 and the 80, then think, would you send them across that intersection? Would you send them walking to school or to take public transit or riding their bike to the store? Would they feel safe? If you would, it's because it's safe enough. If you would not, it's not. And we gotta do it better. I mean, what if everything that you did in Atlanta, everything, the sidewalk, the crosswalk, the grocery store, the restaurant, the university, the library, everything had to be great for an 8 and for an 80-year-old. Not 8 to 80, because sometimes people say, oh, but my grandma is 89. No, it's 8 and 80 as an indicator, because if it's great for the 8 and the 80, it can be good for everybody, from 0 to over 100. We need to stop building cities as if everybody was 30-year-old and athletic. And men, the cities built by men. We need to change. We really gotta create cities for everyone. In the case of ADD, it's our mission to enact action and challenge status quo to create healthier, more equitable, and sustainable cities. Cities for everyone. So we gotta do a new. But before, I'm gonna go into lots of it. I got like 600 more slides. So don't get up and don't leave yet. But tell me, do you have any question about any of the things that we have seen up till now? Any question or any comment? Afterwards, I want to talk about walkability and bikeability and parks and how to change and equity. But any question or any of the things that you have? Yes.
You mentioned the story about Obama Blue. I still have that memory myself. So you mentioned the air quality is very important part for the urban health and definitely equity in the city. So we see a lot of cases that bring in different type of people, different groups of people together in the city, but that's local equity in one city. How would you tackle the equity issue of urban health globally? Like, we will have those high pollution factories and high pollution industries. There's a demand of such products, and some more developed countries move those kind of industry out to other less developed countries. So how should we tackle this equity issue globally?
Well, first, a lot of those factories actually can be cleaned now. So the same way that the cars are moving from gas to diesel now to electric and other things. So a lot of those factories can be a lot cleaner. The other thing is that we need to demand from the government, to demand the companies to be clean. Unfortunately, we need people to be active. In England, they have done a lot of really good things on walkability and clean air. In London, the mayor in London has done more than 400 schools of street schools. What are street schools? The quality of the air in London is terrible. So he said, we're going to eliminate the cars going up to the school. So we're going to create an area of half a mile around every school where there are fewer cars, especially at the time of the school. No one can go, otherwise they get a ticket. And the quality of the air has improved radically in front of the schools. And now the UK got a prime minister that is kind of crazy, multi-billionaire. Usually, most of the multi-billionaires that become presidents are really lousy. I'm not talking about the US, but hey. This guy wants to take away, he said, oh, I'm a motorist, I love motorists. And I love, we're gonna take away everything that was against motorists. It wasn't against motorists, it was about clean air, it was about being able to be safe, to walk, to bike. And I think that one of the ways to do it is we need to focus on the benefits. I want to touch that when I talk about change, I'm talking. If I don't answer it, you ask me again. But that's very important. Yes.
I was wondering, a lot of these pictures of Colombia, it seems like you're building parts that are in California. And I think you were reading James Baker, the death of very cities. He warned against like, unsafe parts. There wasn't enough like moving around and exploded or it wasn't framed by the right context. How do we build in that match there? It's relatively low density and it's really spread out. And how do we create parts?
First, Jane Jacobs is not God. People tend to think that she's God. No, she's wrong.
Close.
In Toronto, every time they say, oh, what would Jane Jacobs say? She's out of context. She was 50 years ago, it was a different city, a different place. Also, she lived in neighborhoods both in New York and in Toronto, segregated and all kinds of things. So, and I think that a lot of her comments on Park were wrong. Even though she was amazing, an amazing woman that's not an urbanist or anything, and really transformed cities. And in Toronto, she did a lot of good also because they were going to do a highway to the middle of the city and she led demonstrations. She was really good, but no, we need parks everywhere. Also because we need to densify. A lot of those areas where we did the parks in the low income areas, most of them were low density. They were single family houses, almost all of it. Then they start growing. Most of the houses in the world, 80% of the houses are not done by architects, are done by people. People do their own house. And then they have a little bit of money and then they have to buy a lot. And then once they get a bonus in a reward, they do one wall and then the next wall. And then after 4 years, they have the first floor. And you go through those neighborhoods and you see that all of the first floors have a little columns on the corner. It's because whenever they get a little bit of money, then they do the second and eventually they do the third. But almost all of them were low density. In the public spaces, they are very unsafe when they're empty. They are very safe when they have people. But the cheapest way to have safe public places is to have people. Because you need to invest in programs, in activities, because if there is people there, they are very safe. And that, something very interesting. The last terminal my brother was there, he said, I want to put lights on 1,000 parks. 1,000. Actually, he ended up doing 1,167. What is really interesting is that after he left, last year, the national police and the best university in the country did a study. What was the impact of putting lights in those parks? Transformative. It improved the safety, not of the park, of the neighborhood, like the park and 4 or 5 blocks around it. Fewer drugs selling, fewer drugs being consumed, less fights, more community. Because all of a sudden, when you got these parts that were dark, it was a fertile ground for gangs and drugs and drunks and whatever. Now that they had all of these lights, also people come to play and they come also with friends, with family. So they're gonna play and then the grandparent comes to see, or the brother or the sister or the boyfriend, or the girl, whatever. So you have a lot of people. So it was very interesting because unfortunately we didn't have those photos. But that study is very interesting how by putting lights, improve safety. So now a lot of the parks are being put lights because of what happened in Bogota with those 2,167 parks. Very, very interesting. I know parks, it really, when they are used, they improve safety. They improve the sense of belonging. They improve also solidarity. Because if you go to the park and you get to know your neighbors, then something is happening outside and you want to go out and help. If you don't know anybody, you close the door and you stay inside. So it is very, very important. I think that James Jacobs had a little bit, not a proper idea of, but I understand, I respect her. In my 50 webinars, one of them was young Gil, and he also was a little bit apprehensive about parks, and he was talking that the sidewalks are more important. I said, sidewalks are part of the family of the park. Sidewalks should not be run by public works or by transportation, but by parks. Because whenever you are on the street, you're going from point A to point B, not on the sidewalks. On the sidewalks, you meet boyfriends and girlfriends, you meet neighbors and the people selling flowers and fruits. And in the sidewalk, it's like a park. You can have benches and trees and lights and life. And you go at a different speed. And it's not just to go from point A to point B. Sometimes you say, oh, I'm gonna go for a coffee. It takes you 15 minutes, 1 hour. Oh, what I don't know, I went by and I sat and I chatted, I socialized. So it's like a park. What I'm saying, I don't want to disrespect Jane, but what I want to say is that when I said she's not God, is because too many students, and not only students, they graduate, and I know 40 years ago that they're going to debate, they say, oh, Jane Jacobs said it. Look, Jane Jacobs had no idea what Toronto was going to be. She lived in Toronto when it was not amalgamated into a city. And even the amalgamation was not 500,000 people. Now we got 3 million people who are going to increase by 50% in the next 20 years. She never thought about that. More than half of us were born in another country. So it was totally, so there's a lot of concepts from her that are valid, but it's not like reading the Bible and oh my God, is this? No. But that's, no, but not, I mean, what I'm saying, I'm not saying also believe in it. It's part of it. And this is what I was saying at the beginning. Half of the homes that we see around with the right now, this is amazing. We got 3.5 billion people living in cities. Within the lifetime of all of you, we're going to grow 17. This is so exciting. And this is what we need to do. We need to know. We need to have places we can walk and bike. It's public transit, and everybody has access to nature close by. It's not rocket science. It's not sending people to Mars or anything. Why don't we do it? And a lot of the growth of the population is going to be in the emerging countries, Africa, Asia, Latin America, but also something that is interesting at the same time. Sometimes people don't get it because it seems contradictory, but it's not. Is that the populations are already decreasing. But the top 30 countries by development all are losing population. And many emerging too. Colombia is losing population. Like you gotta have 2.1 children per woman. Colombia is in about 1.7. Canada is in 1.4. Canada is growing is because we have 500,000 immigrants every year. But if we didn't have immigrants, we would not. So the population is already decreasing. And that is going to be the trend. That's going to be very interesting. But nevertheless, within the next 40 years, because of immigration and other things, the US is going to grow by around 80 million. So you're going to need about 50 million homes. This is going to be fantastic for cities like Atlanta. It stops sprawling like crazy. This is the most amazing opportunity to improve the suburbs. But now you're going to have the possibility to say, hey, we gotta grow within the existing footprint. So all of this that we couldn't have anything, any retail on the main streets because everybody's gonna go broke if it's only single family homes. You can put the density and make it right. I mean, 50 million homes is like all of the homes of Canada, France, and Australia together. And by the way, after that, none of them are gonna grow. None of them. Also, the population in the world is gonna peak in around 40 years. And then it's gonna start decreasing. Something really interesting. The annual population growth, look how almost every country started to go down, all the developed countries. It's very interesting because many more people are dying than being born already. And the trend is gonna continue. You know, one of the it's important to understand also why is it that the population grew so much? Because the children used to die. 100 years ago, the country that had the best public health was Sweden. And 1 out of 3 children would die. In the US, more than half of the children would die. So what happened? People used to have 10, 12 children, and three would survive. They wanted 3, but they needed to have 10 to have 3. And then what happened? We got clean water and vaccination. So the people that are so much against vaccination, well, those two, clean water and vaccination, and then kids stop dying. So what happened? the rate of death went down. But people kept having 10 because they thought they needed 10. And then they said, maybe, then 8, then 6, then 4. But it took a period that between the death rate went down and the birth rate went down because people didn't realize that it was so dramatic. And then that's why now everybody wants to, whoever wants 2 kids has 2, whoever wants 1 has 1, or so that's why the population grew. And now it's not growing, so that is what, why are they having so many children? It's really interesting, but now don't have a country that don't have immigration like Japan. I do a lot of work with different cities in Japan, for example, with Toyama. Toyama was working with the mayor, they are gonna lose 30% of the population in the next 20 years, 30%, imagine. So 30% of the, you can go to Japan and buy houses for $1 because they're empty. There is no market. Like this mayor of Toyama, one of the things he's doing is he's creating an amazing downtown to try to get people from the suburbs to go to the downtown to see if they can tear down all of the houses in the suburbs and do urban agriculture. So for example, they're doing, he was telling me they have beautiful flowers on the streets. And he said he's investing like $3 million on those flowers. And he said, now we still don't have the critical mass to have good music and good concerts and good flowers and good public transit. So he said, we need to subsidize so that when people come and say, let me see how this, they say, oh, it's kind of nice, maybe I'll move. And started moving. But imagine how difficult it is if all of a sudden they tell you in 20 years, 30% of the homes are going to be empty. That's a completely different urban planning urban challenge. And then we look, even India is going to come down, and China already started coming down. All of the countries are becoming down. It's quite easy. In the cities, we already have now more than 50% of the population living in cities. And all of the population growth is in the cities. We're going to go to 80% in the next 40 years. So all of the population growth, plus many people moving away from small cities to medium, to large, everybody moving. And this is part of it is good news because in cities, you have the healthy. And also it's not such good news because also in cities, you have the unhealthiest. We got both at the same time. So we have this combination that we're going to double the population, also the population is decreasing, so it's a handball. So how this is really important. How cities are built is the most important decision of our time. I think there is nothing more important than this. How cities are built. But how cities are built is how people will live for hundreds and hundreds of years. Imagine when the population is not growing anymore, it's stable everywhere. So how people live, if they're gonna walk to school or they're gonna be driven to school, if they got parks, if they got trees, if they got nature, if they have work, if there are places to socialize, there are places to be with others, if you can have mixed generations or whatever, or if there's public transit, it's huge. So you have a wonderful opportunity, but not only an opportunity, a huge responsibility. Because whatever you do or don't do, where billions of people are going to live for hundreds of years. Really an opportunity. So the cities, you gotta build them fun and also equitable and sustainable. Fun, I put fun at the same importance as equitable and sustainable. Fun. Because if they're not fun, people don't want to live that are not fun. And the more and more people used to choose cities only for work. So even people could do the owners of Dow Chemical, they created something, and in the middle of nowhere, a small town of 10,000 people, they built a company, and people from all over the world, they will go and live there for 40 years until they retire because they wanted to work for Dow Chemical. Now nobody will go and work even if they pay them $1 million. We want to live on city. So now is not, the balance is not so much. Maybe before it was 90% work related, 10% about fun and joyful and playfulness. Now it might be 70-30 and then 80-20. So being fun and everything. Everybody trying to cover their health. So that's why all of these are urban health. So the biggest challenge of cities is how to retain. How to retain, or how to attract. Because today, anyone that is good at anything, if you're good at making pizza, or you're a good nurse, or you're a good teacher, or at anything, you can live anywhere in the world. So why would you live in Atlanta? Why would you live in Copenhagen? Why would you live in New York? Anywhere. So the cities, they want to retain and they want to attract. Or they want to get the cream of the crop, or want to get the leftovers. You might even have immigration. Canada bring in 500,000 people. Maybe the cream of the crop want to go to some cities, the medium to others, the leftovers to others. So cities are competing. How to attract? So Toronto's competing with Atlanta, and Atlanta with Portland, and Portland with Copenhagen, and everybody with everybody. So let me take it to 10 ideas. One is we gotta create cities for people. It sounds obvious, cities for people, but it's not obvious, because in the last 100 years, this is how we've been doing cities. We've been sending the poor people to the worst places, no trees, no parks, no work, no public transit, no nothing. Compare the quality of life of those people with this people. Even the US, the wealthiest country in the world by zip code. The zip codes with dark red is the life expectancy is 60, in light pink is 90. How can we even accept that that's normal? And that has been like that for dozens and dozens and dozens of years. And people have accepted it. It's crazy. Because they also, some people say, oh, but I'd rather live 60 years, but really good, and not 90 really bad. The problem is that the people that live 60 is really bad. Because it's the places where there are gangs and people are killing children and teenagers, and where the rate of graduation of high school is terrible, and where there's no public spaces and the parks are run down, and there are food deserts. There's no allotment gardens, no urban farms, no grocery stores. People are living almost like animals, and we do nothing about it. Harvard did a study with over 3,000 neighborhoods that were in extreme poverty 30 years ago. 30 years later, 2,750 are still in extreme poverty. Only 250 left. One of the reasons are the ones that actually were able to have contact with people with middle class, with workers, because they develop other goals and other relationships and whatever. This is really incredible that the wealthiest country in the world has this going on. We've been focusing on cars, and other people's happiness. This is how we've been doing the cities. We've been putting billions to solve mobility, and we haven't even solved mobility, mostly as cities. This is a highway intersection in Atlanta. I took the name out of Atlanta because I don't want to talk about it. Atlanta. You know, we knew how to do cities, and then we forgot. You know, when the car arrived, maybe we should have done corridors for people walking and cycling, and others for cars. But people said, like Ford, the guy of the cars, he said, oh, if I had asked people what do they want, they would have said, oh, faster horses. So no cars. No, we should have said, hey, what do we need? You know, that's interesting. All of you that study architecture, for example, how when you go to the houses in all the cities in the US, in the main boulevards, you go to the main floor and it's amazing, marble, all of this. Why? Because that's where the owners used to live. The people that work for them, the maids and drivers and whatever, they live on the top floor. And then when the cars arrived, and then they became dangerous and noisy, then they switched. They went to the penthouse and they sent the servants to the first floor. Then when there were too many cars and they could have a car, then they went to the suburbs. But this is, I bring this up because this is what's happening with technology. We gotta make sure, I have a last chapter of technology, because we gotta make sure that the technology works for people, not people for technology. So if we didn't do these corridors, this is the step what we did. You know, the US cities. The US cities used to, all of it used to be 15-minute cities. All of it. And then we tore them apart. Imagine how the kids used to go to school, or to buy an ice cream, or to play on the street, or the relationship of neighbors and libraries and whatever. This happens. And they say, oh, we are improving. Oh, we were destroyed. And it's impossible to fix, like when the government is putting billions to say, let's take down highways and connect. No, because it took many years to develop the relationship with the person that sells the ice cream and the person that came from Poland is doing the desserts and the other one. Now they do that and say, oh no, they're down there. So it's not that simple. It's very easy to mess up, it's very hard to fix. The cities don't decide the what, they do decide the how. But this is still in Las Vegas. And look at this neighborhood, how horrible. Instead of parks, we're putting parking lots. A child, someone with disabilities would go crazy, this kind of neighborhoods. So the last 40 years or the last 80 years have not been good. Have not been good. Except with many isolated cases. But it's almost impossible. Think about that. Maybe you could put a homework to say if anybody finds any city in the US that has been done right in the last 50 years. I probably think you could not find one. Maybe you could find one neighborhood here, one neighborhood there, but a city. And we know what it is. It's incredible that the same people that are destroying the cities, they work 50 weeks of the year so that they can go 2 weeks to Paris or to Milan. And you say, oh, what do you do in Paris? Oh, we walk. Then we had a cappuccino. And then we walk more, and then we had a glass of wine. No one comes back talking about how wonderful are the highways in Paris. I mean, when we think about the cities, they're bad for physical and mental health. They're bad for climate change. They're bad for the quality of the air, the water, economic development. They are not good almost for anything. And we continue doing more and more and more and more. And we know that it's not going to work. So we can improve the cities, or we have to do great cities. But we need to plan it radically different and radically. Second, we cannot think of the 0 to 4. Somehow the planners think that children are born 5 years old. I go to Piedmont Park and I go to the playground and the children is 5 to 12, 12 to 18. I say, hey, they don't start at 5, they start at 0. But nevertheless, imagine that Atlanta was playability. You go to the sidewalk and there are swings, you're waiting for the bus and there's more parking. Imagine that the mayor of Atlanta said, well, we're going to have the most playful city in the world. It's not about money, it's just allowing people to be in a little place and put game, do things. It's a wonderful, it makes it so much nicer. I mean, look at these kids. You don't even have to ask them if they're having fun. Look at that face. See, it's so happy, and you're going to say, oh, great, it's fun and games. Yeah, it's fun and games. But also, playing is how children learn. Playing is how children develop their muscle strength, their sociability, coordination, the sense of belonging. Their cognitive thinking, and the 0 to 4 is the most important. Not only 5 to 12. Let's start at 0. Why is it that the 0 to 4 is the most important? By the way, this is interesting. I've been 20 times to Copenhagen. I take study groups to Copenhagen. One of the things that I look, there are no 2 playgrounds alike in Copenhagen. None. Everyone is different. Everyone. Most of the cities in North America seems like they call playtime and they say, hey, send me 20 of those. No, everyone is different, which is quite nice. Some are just wild like this one, and it's also quite nice. So they don't have to have a lot of plastic all around it. We do a lot of work with Urban 95. What is Urban 95? If you could see your city from the height of a 3-year-old, what would you change? I mean, go to a street corner, get on one knee. That's pretty much the height of a 3-year-old. Go to a park and get on one knee. Still very good. You probably would change a lot of things. And we gotta work with those 0 to 4. I advised Tirana for the last 9 years. Tirana used to be like the North Korea of Europe. Now it is a best case scenario around the world of cities for children. And they are poor. This is the brain of a child that didn't have enough nutrition, physical activity, and contact with nature. This is the one that did. This is why the 0 to 4 is so critical. We improve the beginning, we're going to improve their lives. Those first 48 months is when the brain develops, the muscles, the bones, everything. The children that are being born in Atlanta today, the life expectancy is going to be 9. Half of them are going to live over 100. But in these 48 months is where all the love, the affection, the contact with nature, the physical activity. And we're born like with this possibility, I think these are very important. Some stop here, some stop here, some kids are handicapped for life. Except that it's almost an invisible handicap. I said, I wish that whoever didn't get all of this, maybe an arm would fall down. Because then they would say, hey, you didn't get affection. Brain is not wrong for them. No, but it's invisible. So we really can improve the beginning. We really need to work on the 0 to 4 for everything. In Toronto, it's more expensive to go to for a child to be in daycare than to go to the university. We have 3 elementary schools, 3 secondary, 3 high school, but daycares are really expensive. And also with the children, we gotta work on the also the connections of 3 and 4 generations. This is my grandchild. And we have 4 generations in parks, and we're gonna have them get more because we're getting stronger. Great, see that in the parks. But for example, when we do playgrounds, it's as important to have a swing and to have a nice cozy area for the grandparents. Because otherwise the grandparents do lovely, they go magical to the park. And 10 minutes they're gonna be bored if they need to stand up. But if they can sit and have a coffee and socialize or read a book, and the child is playing with other children. Because what is a child's best friend? Well, another child. So then the child, they go and play with children and other adults have played. So whenever we go to parks and we see this, because we're stay at the time. But when we see this kind of connections, we're clicking, we're seeing urban health and care. So we are gonna be able to live older, healthier, happier. So another message is that we can have it for all. It's for this. You know, we double the life expectancy in every country. In the US, 100 years ago, the life expectancy was like 33. If we had been born 100 years ago, many of us, all of you would be close to that. And I would be dead. It's incredible. Can you imagine? That's more incredible than having gone to the moon. More incredible almost, I think, than anything. And most of it is 70 years. I don't know why we have such a negative perception. I mean, our body ages, but not our minds. So we, like very natural, you said, we don't stop playing because I try to change this a little bit, and we don't stop playing and working because we grow old because we stop playing and working. It's I mean, with your aging as a decline, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It does become a decline. Aging really is not a problem to solve or a disease to cure. Aging is living. You are aging, everybody's aging since the day we're born. So we gotta find ages. No more age. Don't do this because you are a child. Don't talk about politics because you are too young. Don't work because you are too old. We need to eliminate discrimination. All of a sudden, we are fighting discrimination by gender, by race, by ethnicity, but we think it's fine by age. Then all of a sudden, someone asks a question, and it's someone 65, and then they forget senior mom. We gotta fight discrimination at all ages. That's something that is really important because we're living longer, much longer, and this is so exciting. Imagine that the people that have ever lived to 60, half are alive today. Half. Wow. That's almost like incredible. And the population over 60 is gonna double. And people are gardening and having ice cream and playing with their grandchildren. And the 60 is gonna double, and the population of 80 is gonna quadruple. This is really exciting. So you gotta start thinking, what is your role? Because there is a huge opportunity, but also a huge need. Every time that I go to any city, the mayor said, we have a problem. What is the problem? Oh, we have too many old people. I said, first, it's not a problem. And second, it's not you, everybody, because we're living longer everywhere. Everywhere. The elders really are givers. They're not takers. The elders are assets to the community, not liability. Elders could be amazing, but for example, we see this thing that elders, they get a lot of subsidies, so they're expensive. Get rid of the subsidies. Why give older people subsidies? That was good 50 years ago when the seniors were poor. 50 years ago, the level of poverty in the US was around 12%. Seniors was over 30%, very poor. This is a huge success story. In only 2.5 generations, it went from being almost 3 times more to being half. Also, why subsidize a 70-year-old millionaire just because he or she is 70, and not a 40-year-old single mom or dad in poverty because he or she is 40? We need to subsidize by need, not by age. I mean, it's 2023, so we gotta change the conversation on all of these things. I mean, we've added years to the lives. Now, we fail to add life to those years. So we gotta find how it's 1/3 of our lives. And you should care about older people because it's your grandparents or your parents. Or it might be you if you are lucky. It's everybody. So everybody should be concerned about how are people living. So it's something more we gotta have this activity. And from the day we're born to the day we die, we gotta be physically active. All seasons, all the time, the parks. I mean, game check of the think of it. It's such a pattern. I don't know why she had this thing with the parks. You are right. When I read her report, the issue of the parks. But nevertheless, actions. Being active, you are active, it reduces premature deaths, strokes, cancers, tuberculosis, high blood pressure. It's really kind of magical. But I'm sure that they just gotta do 60 minutes. I was 30 minutes, but I could be 5 days or more, 5 days or more. So it's really important. We don't need to do marathons. There are hundreds of studies that show. You have here the CDC in Atlanta doing lots of studies on physical activity. Tomorrow I'm meeting with some of them on this. This is not physically active. That's not walking around. People want a magic pill. No, there are no magic pills. The only way that Atlanta is gonna be physically active, if people walk or bike as a normal part of everyday life. That's why we need to do all we can to make sure that in our cities it's safe and enjoyable to walk and to bike. Because there is no other way. You don't find any city in the world, none, where large groups of population are active other than walking outside. People might play golf once or twice a week. They might play soccer once or twice a week. But if it has to be 5 or more days a week, it's walking outside as a normal part of everyday life. Like Jan Gil says, we need to invite people to walk and bike as much as possible. And of course, we gotta think also that even if we're physically active, there is no, the active is going to improve our physical health, but there is no health without mental health. Loneliness is a big issue. We're lonely, it increases by almost 30%, 29% heart disease, 32 strokes, twice the possibility of dementia. By the way, dementia, the only thing, all the labs are working on how to find a cure for dementia. But the only thing that delays dementia or decreases is 2 things: socializing and physical activity. Nothing else has been found to be effective. So it's really, really important. So the social, this came last week. The Surgeon General of the US said the epidemic of loneliness. 1 in 2 Americans report experiencing loneliness. So we gotta work in social connection. That's why we have park, and that's why we have, talking about Sunday. One day I was working in Kentucky and I was with the mayor, and we were walking, and we went like 10 blocks and said, "Hey, I haven't seen any bench." Look around the homeless. I said, "Well, in this city, there's magic. You take out a bench and a home shows up." I said, "The homeless now is gonna sleep on the floor." But people with disabilities, especially the older people, will not walk if there are no benches. They might not even use it, but they want to know that if they get tired, there's a bench to sleep. How can we have such issue with homelessness that the city council approves unanimous to get rid of all the benches in a city? It's really good. And the Surgeon General says loneliness increases fraud and mental health, race, best friends, and pension. I mean, depression has become the leading cause of disability. If we have contact with nature, it's going to improve our mood, our cognitive attention. When I was going to Puerto Rico to work when they had a hurricane, I said, "Look, I don't charge 1 cent, I'll donate 2 weeks." And I did, one of the things that I love was bike riding along this nature. Was great. Also working in Alaska. I mean, we have nature everywhere. And we gotta have nature at home, on the sidewalk, the support, or the school, or where we study. We gotta have our neighbors have to be green because it lowers the depression, the anxiety. Not only because it looks beautiful, But that's a really nice neighborhood. Also, it lowers the temperature. When we don't plant trees, it's completely different. It's not. We don't have nature. But we're gonna have sustainable mobility. By the way, how much time do I have?
Class goes for quite a while more, but I know you were aiming to kind of finish by 8:30, but do you want to? Up to you.
Okay. 8:30?
Well, and then that was going to include some of the dialogue.
Okay, it's gonna be a little bit longer. Can I take a little bit longer? Okay. Mobility, they were born to, the first step changes everything. My grandmother. I mean, why do we talk about walking? Because every single trip we can walk. We walk to the car, we walk to public transit, we walk to places, everybody walks. I mean, walking and cycling is not a joke. This could be a beautiful street anywhere in the world. Walking and cycling is not a frivolity. Too many decision makers think it's a frivolity. This little girl knows it's not. It's not. I mean, walking and cycling is the only individual mode of mobility for most people. Even in the wealthiest neighborhood of Atlanta, 30% of the people don't drive. People under 16, many over 70, and some that don't want to drive. It's the only individual mode of mobility for all children and youth. If you're under 16, you might be the son or the daughter of the wealthiest person in Atlanta. And your only individual mode of mobility is to walk and bike. And sometimes I go to cities and people say, oh, I'm a soccer mom or I'm a soccer dad. By definition, that's a bad community when you have soccer moms and soccer dads. It doesn't make any sense that a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old depends on someone to drive them to go to soccer practice or to buy ice cream or to go to school. It doesn't make any sense. I love that parents go to their children's activities because they want to be in the activity, but it's not because they're the drivers of the family. And also, when I think about when my kids were teenagers, I think that their friends and things, most of the fight the friends and that teenagers don't have with their parents was about driving. Oh, you pick me up too early, you pick me up too late, or I'm coming with friends, no, you're not taking your friend. So if all of a sudden they could just walk or bike or take public transit, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, so it's so we really gotta improve that. It has to be safe. It should be like a human right. The right to safe and enjoyable mobility. Unless you think that only the people that have the money and the desire to have a car have a right to individual mobility. That's why we're also talking about democracy, human rights, and equality and sustainability, because all of this is linked. This is how people we were built. You know, the birds fly, the whales swim, because we walk. We walk. We walk in the summer, we walk in the winter, we walk all the time, and maybe we're happy because that's how we use all our senses. We're walking and all of a sudden we see the children playing and the youth going to school. And then we can hear the birds singing. We go from a coffee shop and we smell the aroma. It's amazing. Parents and children walk, all their adults walk. Everybody walk. We walk in the summer, we walk in the winter, but it has to be safe. And it's not safe. You know how to make it safe, but this is not technical or financial, this is political. No one should be dying. Vision Zero, that's what Vision Zero says. People are not perfect. No one, the walkers, the drivers, the cyclists, no one is perfect. So we need to design the streets, the width, the speed, the angles, everything, so that no one will die. Even if you have an incident, that it will not be an issue of life or death. We know what needs to be done. Why don't we do it? We know this road is not safe, but if we redesign it like this, it's gonna be safe. So then if you're gonna cross, you don't have to cross all of this, but you only have to cross this much, and then you have a small island, and then you can wait, and so on. I mean, it's simple. We really, but we have this attitude in many cities. Why if we don't change and something magical happens? Nothing magical is gonna happen. Nothing magical. Look at the US. I mean, I love the US, but this is not something that can make you proud. And also Canada. The problem with Canada is that in some of these issues is, oh, we're better than the US. No, Canada, don't look at it. Look at all of these that are better. It's you know, we gotta benchmark with people that are better. Atlanta has to benchmark. If Atlanta wants to look for cities that are worse than Atlanta, in 10 minutes, Atlanta can do a list of 500 cities. But if you compare yourself in any topic, the cities that are worse, eventually you're gonna look at. So you're gonna say, okay, what cities have similar size and income and temperature than Atlanta? Okay, which of those have the best streets or the best quality of air and the level of happiness? Whatever you want to measure, but benchmark with some that are better. We gotta lower the speed in all the neighborhoods to 20 miles an hour, not because 20 is 20 sounds nice, but because if a driver hits you at 20, there is 5% probability of dying. At 40, it's more than 80%. And there are hundreds of studies, like no one denies that. No one does that. Why don't we reduce the speeds? But we know it's an issue of life and death. And also in the US, many people are dying because the cars are becoming gigantic. So when they were low, they would hit someone and they would break their legs. Now they break their lungs. I mean, size and weight matter. Why is it that we don't say, okay, if you want to have this car in the city, well, the taxes for that car is 5 times more than for the other car. We gotta create some incentive somehow so that people feel, because they put this and they think they will look cool, okay, they should know that they feel it is important. I mean, they don't belong in the city, so let's make it really, really, really difficult for that. So citywide, 20 miles, except the period might be 30 or 35, and we gotta enforce it, and we gotta use technology. For example, many cities are putting counters on the crossing walks, that if there is a person coming, is counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, goes to 0. But if it detects a person on the crosswalk, it doesn't give the green light to the other side until the person presses. And what does it cost? Nothing, peanuts. Why don't we put it everywhere? The cars, for years and years, they were charging the cars like $400 to put the sensor of cars on the blind spots. Cost $10, so they were charging $400. Now it's standard in all of the cars. Why is it that they did not make it mandatory? This is really cool because this is only paint, not even high tech. I mean, we gotta put people first, but it's not people first when we put a post in the middle of the stand. I was in New Mexico and the mayor took me here and said, yeah, we're putting lights on the sidewalks. Saying, how nice, but how not so nice are put it in the middle of the sidewalk. This is a new sidewalk. It's not from 20 years ago. Look at this side. They need to be to this neighborhood. Look at it. Look like a roller coaster. My God! Imagine with a walker, with a baby on a stroller, or if you are blind, or if you are running. Also, it's much more expensive to do a sidewalk like a roller than to do a perfect that sidewalk. So that we don't even do sidewalks. We waste our money on Vision Zero on this. This is not a pedestrian. This is a car bridge. This is only so that the cars can go faster. Why are we forcing people to go up 62 steps and cross and come down 62 steps when there is a traffic light here and they could have a really nice walking path? Imagine if you just went to the grocery store and you got all of these packages, or you got the baby, or a leg or whatever. By the way, people with disabilities, is not only the largest minority, but it's one minority where anybody can be a part of it. I mean, if you're not Hispanic, you're not gonna wake up tomorrow Hispanic. But I may not have a physical disability and I trip on this chair and tomorrow I'm have a broken leg. Why are we forcing people 62 and then another 62? And then we call it pedestrian bridge. The only way to justify pedestrian bridge is when there are no stops. Like on a highway. So if there are no traffic lights, okay, put it over the highway. But any street that has traffic lights, we gotta put it. I mean, we know that this takes a lot of time, and then you walk, and then you break over and over and over. So pedestrian is really so nice in front of this hospital, so this and benches, we gotta have benches, a full design, no sidewalk, high speeds. I mean, when we see children in the city, it's amazing. Look at this things. This is how we're doing. No island in the middle. It's very hard for her to walk that huge distance in one traffic light. So if they eliminate one lane here and they widen the sidewalk and they make it short. What they're doing in this place in Cape Town, South Africa, they're widening this, they're eliminating one parking lot, so they make it a lot shorter the time to cross. They make it more of a right angle for the cars to turn. I mean, it's not rocket science. How do you know this thing? We also gotta have a gender equity. Hopefully, men and women would be, for example, riding bikes the same, but they don't because usually men go from home to work. Women do a lot of stuff along the way. Buying one thing to go to the schools to go. So they do a lot more shorter trips. So we also need to have. I don't know why we are having this urban health conference, When I'm hired by health departments, 85% of the people are women. When I'm hired by transportation departments, 85% are men. I tell them, maybe you should have a party, get together because you have a perfect fit. But it's crazy. Why is it that men don't wanna care about health? I don't know. The gender equity is something really, really critical. I think, we work 50 weeks to spend 1 or 2 weeks sitting there having an ice cream on the sidewalks. When we could have it in Atlanta, we don't have to go to any place to have it. We gotta have it for all ages and all abilities and having public washrooms. And here I was working in Charlotte, North Carolina. I took a group of high school to the other side of the street because they had older people's home. If pedestrians had plowed, we would plow the sidewalks before the streets. Working in Russia, I don't know what this crossover is taking. This is for the walker, but it's very interesting. But of course, not only walking, it's cycling, it's transit. I mean, 3 generations on a bike. It could be so cool anywhere. These are mayors. That on the top is the mayor of Paris. She's really doing such a gigantic transformation. And if you ride your trike, if you're a little kid, you become president of the United States. I mean, if we're going to prove bikeability, is really simple. It's not safe for an 8 and an 80-year-old. It's nothing. It's nothing. Don't even call it a bike. It's nothing. So this is what we're doing in many cities still. And we call it bike infrastructure. And then we say, oh, no one is biking. So let's get rid of it because we don't have a bicycle culture, right? And they say, oh, it's better than nothing. No, it's not better than nothing. It's worse than nothing. Look in Florida. 4 lanes of cars. By the way, Florida has the most people killed, pedestrians and cyclists of any other state. 55 miles an hour. So people go at 65 or 70. And they have a bike lane in the middle. And then they say, oh, no, we don't have a bicycle culture. Who's gonna go on their bike? And with huge public space on the side, they could have easily been protected by with so easily. So really gotta do things and think of people that come from countries that don't bike and the grandparents and the children. Look at this, so cool. You go to Copenhagen and decide the way they do the bike lanes at 1 level for cars, 3 inches higher for bikes, 3 inches higher for pedestrians. That's how physically separated. But in the small streets, it's sidewalk continues and them. So you go with a partner, you go to the movies, you go by, you're talking about the movie, you don't have to stop every block to see all their car coming. So it's the car that is turning the one that has to stop because you're gonna have to go like over a bump. You're gonna go over the pedestrian space. So I mean, the professionals going to trust, but the children cannot. What we gotta do is for everybody. We gotta do some of this, and then we gotta improve it at the stage. Then we still have the right attitude. The 0 to 4, they is amazing, and they grow up and they can go be more fancy, work as a countryside. But there has to be physical separation. One of these works, one of these doesn't work. Very clear. What is happening? Some people fight for war. That's all. But in parents, it took a lot of guts. Not easy anywhere. There are 8 people here. When parents they were going to do the bike share, they had 20,400 bikes. They had 1,400 stations. They eliminated 5,000 car parking. Initially, everybody was fighting. McDonald's because they had two cars parked here. They were fighting. Afterward, they said, oh my God, better to have 30 bike shared spots and 2 cars. Also, because those 2 cars probably are people that work there and are not buying anything. But these are people, 30 bike stations that they change every 30 minutes. So it's much better for the business to have the bike. But it wasn't easy at the beginning. So we gotta think of things. Sometimes it's recreation, sometimes it's transportation, sometimes it's park. So we gotta have budget from everywhere for private infrastructure. I hear that now you're working with it. This is there's equity or there's no equity on this. Maybe it would be interesting to hear the thoughts. You send it to me, but I didn't have time to read it. I'm really sorry. I'm eager to learn if you thought that is equity because personally I think the only way to really is take the property away. Like when low income people have those, they're gonna be pretty. You have a house that is worth 200,000 and now it's worth 700,000. And you have never, ever in your life seen any number like that. How are you gonna stay? So, but if the house belongs to a foundation or to a non-profit or to or to a community group or co-op or something, then it's not for sale. Then people can stay there for life. But it's so I'm really looking forward because it all over the US and a lot of people talk about the Beltline as a success story. So the only way to be safe is we gotta lower the speed in the streets and we gotta have a network. So everything I said about 20 miles for walking is also for cycling. But we need a network of AAA bikeways. What's AAA for all ages and all ability? But we gotta have connectivity. We gotta have connectivity. We're gonna people daytime and nighttime, and we're gonna think of people opening the doors. And if you don't have the money to do it like this one in Paris, then don't just paint a line. Put those bollards every 6 feet. Every 6 feet, like with the academic 6 feet, and then it becomes safe. Without that, it's not. That's what people back in the there's a net. And then the cars were also taken the 70s to 60s. And then when there was an oil crisis and people couldn't use their cars, the cars being outplaced one day, even though children were dying, they were doing huge demonstrations. And then they were having. I was gonna talk a little bit about Copenhagen, but let me skip Copenhagen. So that we have time for dialogue.
If anyone needs to take a quick break, bio break, just do it on your own, come on back.
Don't go because the best is coming. Okay. We need proximity and density. Now everybody's talking about the 15-minute city. I think there's nothing as crazy. I think after COVID, we came out not very good over our heads. I think everybody were kind of shaky. Or else, how can you understand such opposition of the 15-minute city? Everywhere. It's in some places, in Canada, in some cities like Edmonton, a city of 1.5 million people, the chief planner made the mistake of saying that they wanted to be a 15-minute city. And then when he started going to public meetings on any topic, on a building or something, huge opposition with posters, people insulting him, threatening him, oh, you're gonna force us to, you're gonna limit us, people are gonna be like on a 15-minute jail or something. If anything, the 15-minute city is about freedom. Because now you don't depend on a car. You can walk anywhere to all your basic needs. Something that is important on the proximity is that there are many ways to have density. People that oppose density mostly they hate the 50-story building. But if you tell them, no, we're gonna have only 5-story buildings, you know, I wish there were no buildings, but if it's only 5, then you'll be okay. And I want to talk about that. This is 10 different ways of having the same density. We can have 6-story buildings next to each other, and it's gonna be the same as a 60-story everywhere. No. Except that people live much better on a 6-story. People develop community, people talk to each other, they get to know the neighbors. There are many stories that it shows. Once you go above the 10th floor, you have more in common with birds and planes than with people. When you live on the 20th floor, and people are gonna go to a coffee shop, they go down to the basement, get on their car, and go to the coffee shop. When you live on the 4th floor, you go down to the 5th level, you walk to the same coffee shop. It's totally different. When you're on the 1st floor, the kids look out the window, they see their friends playing, they say, hey Mike, I'm coming down. And in 25 seconds they're down and they're playing and they see the people and the noise and whatever it's completely different. If we have dense cities, eventually everything is gonna go on the other building. So we really gotta take advantage of those 80 million additional people that are gonna come to the US who sometimes keep the storage. By the way, look who likes bicycles. Has she done her concert in Atlanta? Yeah. Yeah, was it successful? You know, she was selling, She didn't announce any concerts in Canada. Then all of a sudden she said, "Oh, Canadians, I love you." I actually, the Prime Minister of Canada, and now we send her, I love you, I love Twitter, saying, "Please, we love you, come to Canada." And then the next week she said, "Okay, I'm gonna do 6 concerts in Toronto, in a stadium of 50,000. They sold out in hours. 300,000 people. It's incredible. And yesterday she announced that she's gonna do Vancouver too, but I like her that she likes the bicycle. Imagine if instead of going out with a football player, she went out with someone that rides bicycles and that care about her own health. But look at this, why we need density. Taylor Swift is an urbanist. Listen.
Towns or cities or whatever, things feel very spread out. But because of something about the New York, everything being on top of each other, like the night falls together. Like in LA, I love LA, but you have to plan out exactly what you're gonna do. You have to park your car, you have to tell your friends where to meet you, then you figure out where you're gonna go next, then you have to get organized. It seems like there's just this magic about the city where a night just falls together and then you end up somewhere else, and you end up somewhere else, and you end up somewhere else. It doesn't seem like it happens that much anywhere else, other.
We need proximity so that the night will fall together, so that we can go. We don't have to get on the car. And she's totally right. Now some people are talking also about the 3-minute city. Now more than 1,200 super neighbors, they are creating groups of neighbors to meet each other, to get to know each other, to do activities with each other through Facebook. And there's also, this is also really, really cool, the 1-minute neighborhood. Well, these people do also once a year, a gigantic thing. But the 1-minute neighborhood is fantastic. Of course, it's come from the country of Lego. Sweden, what is it? The city did these Legos, kind of Legos, all public space. So they got like 50 different modules. And then you with your neighbors in your block, you can meet with the neighbors and decide how do you want the street furniture in your neighborhood. And you decide, do we want couches or chairs or bicycle parking or trees or plants or whatever you want. So you design your street. If more than 70% of the people on the block send their request, then the city sends you all the modules. And then each street is deciding how do they want this. So it's not the city coming top down and putting whatever they want. No, the neighbor decided that this is what they wanted. That's really, really cool. I think that is so great. Why is there cool? They want to have people outdoors 4 times more than today. 400% increase by 2030. And they said if people get to know their neighbors and they design part of their street, it's going to be more likely that they're going to feel a sense of belonging to what's going outside. So I think the 1-minute city is really great. People deciding not on the main arterials, but on the neighborhoods, people decide, it's great. Oh, and I built an idea really before to know because I thought that it was cool. We had a lot of density and that it has all of the green space. And I've been running here for years, biking. So okay, we do them. And people say cities don't change. Cities don't change. Look, Melbourne used to, even they used to make fun of themselves, a useless city center. 20 years ago, they would not have been in the top 300 cities. Now in the top 5 anyway. What are some of the things that they've been doing? One, art, all of this. Another, trees. Look at these trees without any trees, and you put trees, and it's totally transformed. They have been able to lower it by 15 degrees the temperature of the people. Because when you get really hot is when the sun hits you directly, and then you get very hot. So when it doesn't hit you directly, and neighborhoods by 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees, it's really been amazing. So it's good for shopping, it's good for walking, it's good for biking, it's good for the city. They had all of these laneways that were dark and smelly because people used to do this. What they should have done in the bars before leaving at 2 a.m., they commandeered their laneways. And now, what happened with these laneways? They've done 84 laneways. 84, not 1 or 2. 84 of these laneways with art, with restaurants, with all of these transportations, something that is quite nice. And this river had a lot of factories, was very polluted. They got rid of the factories. Now they put housing a linear part of the Yarra River. has become amazing, with lots of bridges, every bridge is different, so it's really good place. No one wanted to live in Melbourne, it was like a donut city, people would come and work and then leave. Now everybody must. You need a car, beautiful sidewalks, plazas, squares, bridges, activities, and also, for example, things like this. They have beautiful street furniture. And I'm a good friend of the chief architect that has led this for the last 25 years. I asked him, will you charge a lot of rent? And he said, well, I could charge, we could charge $1,000 for this. And he said, but instead of $1,000, we charge only 100. Or we say, hey, instead of charging 1,000, but we're gonna put some rules. First, you gotta have this clean. Second, you gotta clean the area around. Also, if you see something bad, don't get involved if you see drugs or thieves or whatever. And the most important is time. I said, you need to open Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 7 a.m., no later than 7 a.m., and close no earlier by 8 p.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you're gonna open 24 hours. Then what happens? That when people are coming out of restaurants or when they feel safe, because every other corner, in one they're selling hot dogs, in another they're selling flowers, in another, and then this person is happy because they says, instead of paying $1,000, I pay only 100. But then I take during that time, I clean up, I prepare, I do accounting, whatever, and then the citizens know that there is a person and a telephone and an alarm. So it's giving people a sense of belonging. Even the people, if you have only a stand for shoe shine, it's not saying, okay, you're gonna pay us $50 a year. No, it's not a purpose. It's also training and say, hey, shoe person, you're gonna have minimum hours. And you are using the space that belongs to you, to your family, to your children, whatever. This is a norm. Then I went by 7 p.m. and then I went by at midnight. And it's so we gotta be smart about the street furniture. So that these guys are not open only for 2 hours a day, 3 hours. Something that is interesting. Mobility and land use are two sides of the same coin. They have about 500,000 people in Melbourne, but the metropolitan area is 5 million. They're going to end. They say, how are we going to? It's going exploding horribly like Atlanta. So what are they doing? They're doing a plan to have everybody, all the population work in the existing footprint. So what they did is they said, okay, here are the dense areas. Here are some of the parks. So let's think where we are going to have public transit, buses or trams or whatever, but public transit. And then they did an evaluation of all of this. And they said, okay, we are not going to count the schools or the libraries or the parks or anything that was built in the last 5 years. They took everything. They said, okay, whatever is left, what if we allow people to densify from 5 to 8 floors? No more than 8, 5 to 8 floors. And so they said, all the houses in between, I think they should have done something that we're doing in Canada now. Is all of that is single family housing. In Canada, we're forcing people to be allowed to have 2 places, 3 places, 4 places. But here, no, they said, keep your house. For environmental reasons, they're saying, okay, be good environmental and put solar panels, plant trees, and do things like that. And it's really interesting how by using 7.5% of the city, they can double the population. They say we can stop this growth. So what happens here? Here the city no one walks. Why? Because there's no place to walk to. You don't open a restaurant, you don't open a place to do pottery or tai chi or because no one is gonna walk. And then they say, okay, why did we intensify this? Nothing. So if you live here, before you had nowhere to walk to. Now you have places to walk to. Also, now you have the density to have public transit. Now you can set up all kinds of local places because the main streets are dying around the world because usually most of the main streets have only 2 floors, one for commercial and the second is where people live. But if you put 4 floors on top of that, then you're gonna have the critical mass to be able to do it. And then they're showing you, this is what it looks like. This is if we make it 6 floors. Not the end of the world. But then go from this to this. I think with this kind of plans, I think that 80% of the NIMBYs and 80% of the YIMBYs would agree, but people need certainty. People need to have clear rules. 7, we can have parks and nature. And I mean parks and also public places. You say, Gil, what do you like as an idea? I say, well, I want to sleep at home, but I gotta live outside. You gotta have great parks. I think parks are great people. Usually, if they come and they come back, not if they win awards. It's like a restaurant. Sometimes you go reading the paper about a restaurant or in the telephone and it says it's great, but you go and it's empty. But if you go to a restaurant full of people, even if the paper says nothing or says negative, but if it's full of people, you say, I'm gonna try this, it might be good. I mean, parks are really important. The biggest problem that I find on parks is management. Some people confuse management with maintenance, maybe because they start with an M, but maintenance might be 20% of management. Management is much broader of the park. Management, of course, is maintenance, but it's 20%. But management is progress, having grandparents and grandchildren good bread. It's having people in the same places walking and studying and running, playing chess and having lunch and doing books. It's having volunteers, but having the tools for the volunteers to do activity. It's asking the citizens before, during, and after, what is it that you want? That's management. That's management. Management is also having resources, human, financial, physical. This is also about being equitable, not that some parts of the city have parks, other parts of the city have nothing, or also being diverse so that not all parks have the same activity. It's being safe. And safety is not like this. I saw this in London, in the UK. It's one of the thieves. This is like an invitation to the thieves of the city. Come here because here this will be a good market. No, if you want to have parks and sidewalks and public places safe, you gotta have people. You need police when they're empty. You don't need police when they are full. So the lowest cost to have safe parks is to have activity. To have activity. So less invest. Sometimes I go to the cities and it seems easier to find $1 million to do a park than to have a few thousand to make it work. But the few thousand is what is going to make it work. I mean, sometimes management is invisible, but someone gave permission to sell the flower, which days, at what time, whatever, or doing nothing. Was in India, and these people were doing nothing. I said, what is that? I said, laughing, you are coming, and then 10 seconds later, you start laughing, 10 minutes later, you are relaxed. Should we do a small or large party at a time? So we have to do both. They satisfy very different things. The small neighborhood park is the sense of belonging. It's getting to know the neighbors. It's getting that sense of solidarity. It's that you cannot play football there or soccer. So you gotta have the same size, and you gotta have, you wanna do a big yoga, you gotta have a big one. So at the end of the day, we need to have a combination of small, of medium, of large. We gotta have all of them, and also we need active, and passive, and contemplative for all ages, all abilities. So it's we gotta have 61 parts. I love this skateboard park. Sometimes we go to the park and say, oh, but only 10 people are playing kayak polo. Yeah, but hundreds go by and watch. So it's also nice to have them to just are watching. I mean, everybody should have a park or a playground. In the US, 1 out of 3 people do not. 100 million people in the US do not have a park within one school. I'm glad that the National Park and Recreation has a campaign with Trust for Public Land that by 2050, I said, well, I'm gonna be dead by then. Why should it by 2050? Why not by 2030? Let's do it now. I mean, Bogota did 1,000 parks in 2 terms. Why is it that cities in the US that are so much wealthier? We gotta have those parks now. Not for the children or the grandchildren or today's children, for today's children. We gotta have those activities, gotta have those parks. That is what's gonna click. And if we don't have parks, let's think of anything that is public, schools, the streets, the sidewalks, the community centers. This is something really that Trust for Public Land is doing in many cities. They've done like 300 around the US, but we need to do 30,000, not something. They go to the school and say, look, we can improve this, if and only if make it a community park. So from 7 to 4 is only for the school, Monday to Friday. But after 4, Saturday, Sundays, is for the community. Look at that transformation. Why so much green? Because the green area, the children have less attention. They're attractive. So look at this one. Has a lonely gardens, games, and green roofs, and amazing. This is cool. And if we don't have a school, let's take over a street. The street has 30% of our city. Let's put a place. Let's do it. The schools really have to be amazing. The schools have to be much more than schools. beautiful school, probably it has a fence, but it's almost transparent, so it's so nice, you don't feel that you have a wall or something. But the nice thing is that the school needs to become community homes. Community homes. In the schools is where we should do the farmers markets and the dances and meetings and all kinds of activities. It's paid by the citizens, the same citizens that live in the area. So why is it that it's gonna be used only for a few hours, Monday to Friday, and it's gonna be empty so much? I mean, part of sustainability, people say, oh, the 15-minute city, but they don't read the details. Part of the having cities proximity is that all the infrastructure that we have multiple uses. So it's not just a school. The school should be like a community center. Imagine every neighborhood in Atlanta having a community center. And it's at the school. The schools could be in the capital of the neighborhoods. A capital. Let me tell you what, when you go out, some of the symptoms of good public places. One symptom is places to sit. This guy needed 5 chairs to be happy. For his feet, his big back, he would not have been as happy on a bench. Sometimes we say monkey see, monkey that, as people see, people do. We take away the benches from the sidewalks. They put nails so young people are gonna sit there. This guy was so tired he had to sit on his briefcase, while his friend actually fainted. And his wife is sitting on the baby. But when you have nice places to sit, it's kind of magic. Even starts to this woman in the middle of the winter reading books. We know in the movable chairs, people don't sit facing each other, they sit facing others. Starts to rain and people won't even move. So that's a good symptom, places to sit. I was working in Istanbul and I saw these people sitting on these boulevards. It's kind of ironic, they got like 20 benches. But it's so another symptom, sociability. So if you see people talking to each other, it's a good symptom. Another one is diversity. We see children and youth and older people and people with disabilities. Another symptom is affection. We see people that are affectionate. It's people, they feel at ease, they feel safe. Another high proportion of women. Women are smarter. So if the place doesn't feel safe or not safe, they're not there. So we gotta be aware of all the places where the majority are men. So it's for all ages and abilities. And these people, they are talking to each other. It's not gossiping. They are improving their health, their happiness. So it's really nice. Just a couple of things outside of that. When you do science, for example, the small thing I talked to some of you that are studying this science. This is a beautiful sign. No sports. Please help us protect this wrong. No sports. Yes, reading, relaxing, okay. Thank you. It's almost like a child or someone that works with you. You're gonna say something, did something bad, start with a pat on the back. Hey, how are you? Doing such good work. Then they kick in your butt. Then end with another pat on the back. Same thing with the science. Because when you get to these sciences, no. And on top of it, you're gonna get poison ivy. And you're gonna get fined. And this is what most of science in the public spaces look like. It's incredible. See, what were they thinking? Start positive, end positive, and then say the other things in the middle. Say thank you as much as possible. I don't know what the magic of this part of these people is very lovely part. The trails, connectivity, Minneapolis and on the Mississippi River. Whenever the private sector took over the land, and they just put it. This is Bryant Park in New York. Fresh cut flowers at the door, and I asked them, why do they have fresh cut flowers? They said because people behave better. And they come in and take fresh cut flowers, and everything is marble inside. Then if you go to our public watchman, it's full of graffiti and dirty. It becomes even dirty. So we're gonna have cultures that allow people to use them to get on top of the thing, orders, play. Because in Boston, look at this is the Greenwood. All of this science is saying, please do not climb. I went with my grandchild. How could I convince a 5-year-old not to climb here? It's impossible. Let them climb, let them play. That's why this is a part. This one I'm not climbing, but it looks like they were trying to do. I don't know. This is the best bench that I've seen in parks. 5 groups of people and no one cares what the other 4 are doing. That's a community bench. Oh, I love these benches and more parties. Also, if you If you have to put for whatever reason fences, try to put it as transparent as possible. So that you will be able to. So it, and it's really for all ages, we're gonna have the older people and the children and everyone. 8 cities for winter. You know what, I'm gonna skip winter, I'm gonna go just very fast, only to tell you, because you don't have winter here. So, but anyway, people are worried about too hot or too cold. Of course, if it's too cold, -10 degrees and you don't have shelter, or when I was in Dubai, air conditioning, because it's too hot. Well, the bus is high. Look at this school, I was working in Finland, in this school, and 1,100 students at -13 Fahrenheit. 80% back into school, 80% at -30. That's why they say no such thing as bad weather, it's bad flu. And so on and so on. So I'm just gonna click through the weather. Also, when it's hot, Seville, people used to say, oh, no one buys in Seville because it's over 110 degrees in the summer. Or because they love cars, no. Because they only had 3 bike lanes that did not connect anything with anything. They did 100 miles in 3 years and went from 0.6 to 7%, and now they want to go to 15%. Right? They are not perfect, but they are connected. They have a physical separation. People do buy and people. I thought the only thing they didn't see they're amazing. So I'm gonna go quickly to the video because we're running out of time. Cities spend too much money doing activities in the summer when people are gonna use it without any investment. Just in the winter, like cheap, or so we gotta get the weather people to talk nice about change. I'm almost done, so I'm gonna end with 2 points. Right, sometimes something that bothers you when you're in a cold place like I am in Toronto, it's not that it's cold, but that it's dark. With lots of lights. For example, we don't call this Christmas lights, call them winter lights. And instead of having it 2 weeks, have it 3 months. But then it becomes an festival. 1 point, the last 2 points. One is smart cities. Everybody's talking about gadgets. Let's do with the cars. Let's think about technology. For example, in China, there are 300 million face detection cameras. 1 for every 5 persons. I don't know if it's good or bad, but at least we should evaluate. Is that good or is that bad? Doesn't make any difference if it's the government or if it was Apple or Google, the one that had this. The police won't ask you for a driver's license when they stop because on their glasses it comes up who you are and what is the driver's license and what is happening. So there's no need for that. And actually now Facebook is coming out in partnership with who's the one who has these glasses? Ray-Ban, with Ray-Ban, similar glasses to those. So you know, I'm not against technology. Technology is really good. It showed us that we have the ozone crisis and how to keep it, and also technology works. We have it in everything, the health, mobility, government, everywhere. But we're gonna have tech for people, not people for technology. Of course, there are good things. Now we can go walking and it tells us how many steps. And it tells us now how many steps indoors and how many steps outdoors. And even the outdoors tells how many were close to nature and how many were not close to nature. And the heartbeats and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, the smart city is not, it doesn't replace dumb decisions. So if we have these bike lanes in between the parked cars and the moving cars, smart city is gonna fix it. By the way, 85% of the people in Atlanta have 1 person in the car. So when you move the bike lane next to the sidewalk, you eliminate 85% probability of dooring, because the dooring is gonna be only on the left. So switch sides, have the parked cars here and the bike lane next to the sidewalk. This thing. This was, I took this actually like 5 years ago by the all over the place. So these signs also so confusing, the days, the months. When 25, when children are present, how do you know when children? You give the child, oh my God, there was present. No, there is a part where there's school, there are children present. Or this one's from Florida, so this one, I think this in Minneapolis, my God, is who feels this bike? No medical protection, no nothing. I'm painted this It's almost more dangerous than these guys. So put that physical separation, but technology is nice, look at this, this bike lane has this, it absorbs the light. And at night, it lit for 8 hours, for 10 hours, sorry. Amazing, beautiful, what a nice idea. Or counting the counters, or of course, we're gonna do a lot more delivery with drones, so less traffic. Have huge taxes for parking or less, they put solar panels on top of it, so it becomes a win-win. Change the surface of the parking lot so that you have the rain, the water goes right through. Of course, there's a lot of this. The car is gonna feel so much, you feel the driver, or the old lady, or the baby. And at the end of the day, also I think that smart cities is where the children can bike to their kindergarten, or the youth can play in the streets, or play Pokemon, or the corners. Or they get older and they watch people, older and they chat or they dance in the middle of the streets. So all of this is really about people and communities of all ages. And the last is we gotta create cities that are playful and fun. This is really critical. But why? Because what I was saying, if you are good at anything, you can live any city in the world. So why your city? Why in Atlanta? Why in Bogota? Why in So this is really critical. People don't want to live in this. People don't want to live in this. It's completely different. So a city that is fun and playful is an issue of economic competitiveness. Because also the companies will want to settle wherever there's people that are fun and that are exciting. So that's why I was saying, our cities are the most important decision of our time. So we gotta change. Why don't we change? Because it's hard. We know the same species. But change is not unanimous. We need to listen. But at the end of the day, do whatever we think is right. The cost of doing nothing is not nothing. Very, very expensive. We have seen with climate change. The public good has to prevail over the particular interest. There's not gonna be a Martian coming out and say, oh, I'm gonna make Atlanta fun, equitable, sustainable. Keeping like the technical, I mean, there's no how. There are examples in different parts of the world for everything. There are a lot of good practice. It's not financial. I mean, we're seeing billions and billions widening roads and highways and flyovers about policy. And in policy, there should be an agreement on the what? All political parties. I don't know why we have allowed that the right-wing parties like the Republicans are not pro-pedestrians. When someone kills a person, they don't ask them, are you Democrat or Republican? They kill everybody, everybody's dying. Trees, climate change, it's affecting everybody. So on the what, there should be agreement of everybody. The right, the left, the center, the non-political, whatever, we should try to work on that because it should have no political party. What? Whether they wanted equity, sustainability, and trees, and walking, and sprawl, and all of this. There might be differences in the how. Maybe the right-wing parties might want to do it with private companies. The left-wing might want to do it with unions. But that is the how, not the what. Let's try to have agreement on it. And I said, with a big policy, with a big team, it has to work. We gotta be bold, we gotta develop alliances with private sector and public and paid groups and everybody. You need to develop a shared vision. By action, because if we have a vision, but we don't have action, we become frustrated. We know what needs to be done, but we don't do it. But on the other hand, if we have action, but we have no vision, what do we do? We do like a Frankenstein. Because we're doing all the time, but we don't really know where. Action, shared vision is like a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle. So that it doesn't really matter which piece of the puzzle we're doing, as long as it's pieces of the same puzzle. And we have a shared vision and lots of action. And we're going to be able to take that back down for people happy with that. Let's do it. Now. Thank you.